Earlier this year, Mondraker introduced a 29er version of their ever-popular Foxy trail bike. This was one of the first 29ers that Mondraker really have had if you look outside of their XC bikes, and if you look outside of the Crafter, which started life as a 29er but finished it as a plus bike. The Foxy 29 retains 150mm travel at the back, and that's paired with a 160mm fork, making this a relatively long travel 29er. While a lot of long travel 29ers go down the almost sofa-like route of using the bigger wheels and big travel to give you the most comfortable ride possible, Mondraker seem to have gone down the route of using it as an efficient way to cross ground with a suspension system that aids pedalling rather than gives you a super soft, super supple back end. Mondraker used their tried and tested zero suspension system. However, on the Foxy 29, they've designed the system to have a little bit less anti-squat to make it a little bit more pedal friendly. Mondraker have gone for their ever popular forward geometry on the Foxy 29, as you'd expect. This means you get longer reaches with a fairly long back end for a nicely planted, nicely balanced feel to the bike. They haven't gone crazy with the head angle. On the Foxy 29, it's 66 degrees. But what they have done is used shorter offset forks from Fox. It's a 44mm offset, and what this means is you get calmer, more stable steering in steep and bumpy terrain. All this is obviously paired with a nice and short stem and wide bars. You also get a fairly low bottom bracket, 21mm below the axles. The size large Mondraker Foxy 29 gets a 490mm reach, making it one of the longest bikes out there. This is paired with chainstays at 435mm. While Mondraker have gone pretty crazy with the length and they're using the new fancy short offset forks, they haven't gone super crazy with the seat angle, and this sits at 75.5 degrees, so pretty average to be honest. The most important thing though, if you look beyond the figures, is how the bike actually rides. I took the bike for a week in Switzerland, which is not a bad place to go test a bike, and I learned a few interesting things about the Foxy 29. The first thing I noticed was that the Foxy 29 climbs really well, and I think there's probably two distinct reasons for that. First off, the big wheels always do help on technical climbs. They lower the angle of attack when you hit a square edge bump or a rock when you're coming up technical climbs, so they do roll over things a little bit easier. The other thing that has helped is that increased anti-squat in rear suspension. At no point during the entire week did I feel the need to use any of the lockouts on the shock, and that's because the bike stays nice and composed under usual pedalling loads. Obviously, if you stand up and mash on the pedals, there will be some bob. But generally speaking, I didn't have an issue with the shock being open, and any bike is going to bob quite a lot when you stand and mash on those pedals. One thing that you might find with the Foxy 29 is that it's not a quiet bike to ride. There is a chainstay protector on there, but it doesn't do a very good job of softening the noise from the chain hitting the chainstay. You might need to wrap an inner tube around the bike, which I don't think is a great solution on such an expensive bike. At 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall, I would usually ride a size large. However, the Mondraker we had in the office was a medium, but I was actually quite happy with that. The reach of 470mm is around my personal sweet spot. I'm not a huge fan of super long bikes, but that 470mm reach does work very well for me. It also means that you get a relatively short seat post on the bike for the size. And if it was me, I would probably stick a 150 or 170mm dropper post on there rather than the 125 that's fitted as standard to a medium. With the 470mm reach and the 435mm chainstays, I found the bike perfectly agile on a whole set of terrain. I rode it on some incredibly technical stuff, and I also rode it out in bike parks. And for me, that bike sizing works just fine. One thing I did notice quite often on more pedally sections of trail was that this is a bike that likes to accelerate along the trail. You put the pedal strokes in, there's very little wallowing from that back end, so it does drive forward. On the flip side, it's not a sofa-like ride. There is feedback through the pedals, especially on some of the bigger hits. Personally, I quite like this. It gives the bike a bit more character and a bit more sort of feeling through the trail. It's a bike, therefore, that feels almost faster than it might be at times, even though with those longer geometries, it is a fast bike for a given size. Arguably, if I was riding a size large with a 490mm reach, the bike would have been a touch faster. However, for me, I think it would have lost some of that personality, some of the agility that I personally like from a slightly smaller bike. Some of my colleagues, such as Seb Stott, really like those super long bikes, and I'm not personally convinced. For me, I like a bike to be agile, to twist and turn nicely through corners, and I'm not that good at getting super long bikes to do that. So for me, the medium was a perfect size bike, though I would have liked a longer dropper. I tested the second highest version of the Foxy Carbon 29, and that's the RR, which comes in at £5,899. That's an awful lot of money, although bear in mind you do get a full carbon frame. However, value, as we've found in Mondraker over the past few years, isn't great. For example, while you do get a Fox Factory 36 fork, it's the Fit 4 version, not the all singing or dancing Grip 2 that's just been released. You also see this at the wheels. They're DT Swiss's M1700, which, to be fair, are budget wheels. They do have that 30mm internal width, which gives plenty of support to the Maxxis tyres. But then at the tyres, what do you see? Well, the front tyre is a proper triple compound Maxxis. At the back, it's a dual compound. It punctured relatively easy. We see similar things throughout the finishing kit, which is Mondraker's own stuff. A 125mm drop post on a bike like this, sorry, it's not quite up there. And finally, the code R brakes are the budget brakes, even though they are the more powerful ones. For a bike that only just sneaks in under £6,000, I don't want the budget versions of these components. I want the best ones out there. I really like long travel 29s, especially ones with suspension that feels as good as the Mondrakers. However, at this price point and with this kit, it's difficult to recommend. That said, if the bike sounds good, you should look at the frame only option. It's £3,299, but you get to put on it the kit that you actually really like. Let us know what you think about the bike in the comments, and don't forget to like or subscribe.